Disney's theme parks had fewer visitors walking through the gates in 2025 than the year before. That same division also just posted the most profitable year in its history. Those two facts aren't a contradiction. They're the entire business model. Start with what Disney's own numbers actually show. In fiscal year 2025, the company's experiences segment, which covers its parks, resorts, and cruise ships, brought in $36.2 billion in revenue, up 6%, and a record $10.0 billion in operating income, more than double what Disney's entire entertainment division, movies, Disney Plus, and its television networks combined made that same year. Parks are no longer the fun side business that funds the studio. They are the studio's landlord. And yet, attendance at Disney's domestic parks actually fell by roughly 1% in 2025, a drop of around 783,000 visitors, according to industry tracking data. Disney's own annual filing explains exactly where the extra revenue came from anyway: a 4% increase in average per capita ticket pricing. Fewer people walked through the turnstiles, and Disney made more money than ever, because the company simply charged the people who did show up more for the privilege. That pricing power exists because building a competitor from scratch is almost unthinkably expensive, and Universal just proved it. Epic Universe, Comcast's fourth Orlando gate, opened on May 22, 2025, after roughly 6 years of construction and a pandemic-driven delay, at a reported cost of somewhere between $6 and $7.7 billion, the single largest investment Comcast has ever made in Florida. It sits on a 750-acre site, with a 110-acre core park built around 5 themed lands, including a new Harry Potter World and Super Nintendo World, and it charges $139 for a single adult day ticket before add-ons. By the third quarter of 2025, Comcast reported its theme park division alone had pulled in $2.717 billion in quarterly revenue, with adjusted earnings up 13.1% to $958 million, driven specifically by higher per cap spending and attendance across the whole Orlando resort, not just the new park. Disney's response tells you everything about how seriously it took the threat. An announced 10-year, $60 billion commitment to expand its own parks and cruise business, an amount roughly comparable to what some entire countries spend on infrastructure in a decade, aimed at making sure Universal's new gate doesn't actually take a meaningful bite out of Disney's business. But the part of Disney's parks empire that almost nobody outside Florida understands is the governmental structure sitting underneath all of it. Since 1967, Walt Disney World has operated inside the Reedy Creek Improvement District, a roughly 25,000-acre special taxing district created by the Florida legislature that let Disney function as something close to its own local government. Reedy Creek handled fire protection, road maintenance, power generation, water treatment, and zoning across the property, funded by taxes and fees the district levied on itself, plus its own bonds, while remaining largely exempt from property tax as a government entity. When Disney needed 2 new parking garages a decade ago, Reedy Creek picked up an estimated $85 million tab for infrastructure that most companies would have had to fund and permit through an ordinary, unfriendly local government. In April 2022, after Disney publicly opposed a Florida law restricting classroom instruction on sexual orientation and gender identity, Governor Ron DeSantis signed legislation to dissolve Reedy Creek entirely. The dissolution never actually happened in the way it sounded. In February 2023, lawmakers instead renamed the district the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District and let DeSantis appoint its governing board while leaving its underlying tax-exempt status, bond authority, and service obligations fully intact, because Fitch Ratings had already flagged that unwinding the district outright could jeopardize roughly $1 billion in outstanding bonds tied to it. The transition wasn't clean. By December 2023, Hundreds of former Reedy Creek employees discovered they owed more than $2 million combined in back taxes after the district's previous leadership failed to properly report free park passes as taxable income. Disney and the new board spent over a year suing each other before settling in March 2024 and agreeing to drop the litigation. Strip away the politics, and the financial result is almost anticlimactic. The tax structure that let Disney build a company town survived every part of the fight essentially untouched. Put those three pieces together, and the actual business looks nothing like the one implied by a mouse ear hat and a fireworks show. It's a company that discovered it can raise prices on a shrinking customer base faster than it loses them, protected by a rival's willingness to spend $7 billion just to get a seat at the same table, sitting on a piece of land that has functioned as its own quasi-government for nearly 6 decades, regardless of which political fight happens to be dominating the news cycle that year. The rides are the part guests remember. The pricing algorithm and the special tax district are the part that actually pays for them.